And welcome everyone to Black Twitch League. My name is RareAdam. Alongside me today is Please Don't Run It from your WCU Rams here. Looking forward to our Week 7 day -2 or -3 matchup here between MG Element and Spectre Gaming. Please don't run it. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am not too bad myself. Not usual that we get a Wednesday game here on BTL, but of course these teams using one of their reschedules to put this into our middle of the week game. Get us started on week 7 as everyone makes their push towards playoffs, and both of these teams are really strong. I believe both of them up near the top of the standings tied for second, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
A win is super important here.
Yeah, Spectre Gaming is currently sitting at 4-0-1, and MG Element is 3-0-1. So they're both in second and third right now, trying to secure those top 3 guaranteed playoff spots. So we should have an exciting series here.
Good implications here. What could end up being a semifinal matchup as well. And of course, MG Element, they've had themselves a really strong start to the season before falling off just a little bit, where Spectre Gaming, a little bit of the opposite, had a little bit of a tough start to the season and now starting to pick up pace here. And, as one of the players in the league, you can sort of talk more into how these teams play, who they really play around. Who is your player to watch for each of these teams?
So I play mid lane for Westchester Rams, so I can't specifically remember who was the big impact player for me the team, but if I recall, the learning was quite a solid mid lane opponent. Both lanes were pretty even, even in tough matchups either of us had to, so it was a very good player there, so I'd keep an eye on him. And I think the ADC and the top laner for MG Element were both very solid, and I think they were definitely the players to keep an eye out for on the other team.
So we've got those sort of players to watch in a sense here. Of note, Venom is going to be playing top lane in place of Guipo here, the usual top laner for MG Element. So a little bit of a different look. We'll see what Out of Blue and late game carry can provide on that bottom side of the map. But in a lot of ways, King Annihilator has been one of the big carries for this team thus far this season, pulling out the Yasuo, pulling out the LeBlanc, pulling out a lot of carry mid laners. You can already see that Spectre have drafted themselves a little bit of safety with that Karma of note. Looking at those bans, no surprise when you look at Runner 90's champion pool to see that Zac banned away.
So when you see the Karma pick, that usually means that they want to have the bot early prio and they want to look to stack Drakes and Jarvan with the early game power that he provides. It seems that they're trying to have a dominant early game to try to get some early Drake stacks going. They do have the Jinx ban out, so I'm surprised no one's picked up the Aphelios just to have the only S tier ADC yet.
Interesting to see Af is still not picked up. On the flip side, though, the Diana, Janna, and Xayah bans. Xayah has been starting to rise a little bit more in priority recently, with some of the AD carry items being nerfed, specifically lifesteal and healing. They have sort of moved towards Xayah, but the Aphelios is going to get picked up here from Out of Blue. This is a champion that we're not so used to seeing Out of Blue play specifically. They've pulled out the Ziggs a lot more, the Veigar as well, sort of giving King Annihilator the AD threat in the mid lane, but with the Aphelios left up, it looks like they're going to pick it up. And, we know what sort of supports work really well with it. The Thresh is an option. What are you seeing as the matchup on this bottom side now?
Well, I think that Spectre should look for an Ezreal here, because Ezreal Karma guarantees them the shove to synergize with that Jarvan to guarantee that they have a strong early game and can do some early Drake stacking. Not a too big of a fan with Rakan paired with Aphelios. I feel like when you play Rakan, you mostly want to use it into a comp that's not really going to look to go onto you, a comp that's looking to stay far away from you. But when they already have a Jarvan, they already want to go into you, so I feel like the Rakan pick's kind of out of place there in that regard.
And the Ashe is actually going to be the option for Spectre Gaming, so HyperF going to be playing a little bit more utility. Does it still fill the same role in your eyes?
Yes, Ashe, her W poke is very, very good throughout lane, and it gives you a ton of prio and a ton of early prowess. Also, it enables very good pick potential for their ready lane dominant team, which if they can use to snowball effectively to their Drakes, could have a very strong early game and carry that to an early game win.
And of course, second round of bans going to be coming through with the drafts mostly mirrored thus far. We're going to be looking for some solo lanes here, and Spectre Gaming, they've got that counter pick available to give to either Lake or Learning. Lake, of note, has had some really interesting champion pickups throughout this season. Of note, pulled out the Shyvana top lane as one of their options, which is A little bit interesting when you think about it. It's not really a champion that you expect to see in that top lane, especially in the current meta, but you can see on the flip side, they want to take Venom off of those carries. The Fiora, the Camille will be taken out of their hands. So curious to see what these solo lane matchups are going to look like. And you had a lot of good things to say about learning here. Counterpick, is it as important in the mid lane now as it maybe was earlier on this season? Now that, Victor's taken off the table, we're sort of getting down to those A tier mid laners now.
So I personally believe that Veigar and Victor are the two best mid laners currently. So I think they're going to probably pick their top laner here. I think that's a flex to Kali. So they have the option. I think mid lane counter pick, once you get like these S tier picks like Veigar, Victor, who can kind of play into any matchup and do fine out of the way, it really enables them to just kind of, the counter pick becomes that much more important since there is no safe pick for them to have here.
And of course, for MG Element, we'll have to keep our eye on what Venom and King Annihilator pick up. Of course, King Annihilator, a very known factor, has been playing very well. Venom has had some troubles getting on their feet, I want to say, for MG Element. Granted, still a very good player, but looks like the LeBlanc will be the pickup for King Annihilator. We mentioned this off the top, the Yasuo, the LeBlanc. Those champions are sort of the bread and butter for King Annihilator here, so if that matches up into the Akali, could mean quite an explosive matchup, but Venom just going to take that Shen. Does that mean Akali goes top lane now, knowing that you're facing the LeBlanc, or maybe does it, or facing the Shen or the LeBlanc, yeah?
I think LeBlanc is very weak in her current state, and like she's mostly used as just setup and roam potential. Like she provides very good dives, and she has really good gank setup, and also very good playmaking throughout the river and enemy jungle. But I think the Akali matchup for Akali into that is a very hard matchup, personally, just because Akali is not a champion till level 6, and LeBlanc kind of has really good laning when it comes to dealing with melee champions. So this should be a very challenging lane for learning here. If King Annihilator plays it properly, he definitely needs to go Doran Shield and also take second wind. Is it second breath? I forget. Either or. Yeah, second wind. He definitely needs to take second wind in this matchup.
So we have our drafts set up for us here. Very interesting overall, I want to say, from what we were maybe expecting. Not a lot of those super high tiers coming through, but at the end of the day, you still get some priority placed on this draft. And just looking at everything as a whole, as I just realized I don't have the scoreboard updated, walk me through where you think the main action is going to happen.
So main action, I think that Jarvan, LeBlanc's near impossible to game, especially as a Jarvan who has one of the most telegraphed combos there is with his Q. I don't think he's going to be looking at it at all. He's primarily going to be looking top and bot lane, or maybe pair up with his jungler. I mean, pair up with his top laner or bot lane to try to make plays in the enemy jungle. Meanwhile, on the other hand, I think that Volibear has the ability to gank any of the lanes just because LeBlanc has great gank setup. Shen has great gank setup at Belios, and Khan also great gank setup. So Volibear has a complete pick of where he wants to go. Probably would want to prioritize getting his bot lane ahead because their team is lacking a lot of damage without having a very strong Belios. So I imagine both teams will be heavily focusing bot lane just because it's kind of the only lane that really dictates how this game should go.
And if we look at how it sort of gets into the mid game here, you mentioned that this Volibear sort of has the pick of the litter. Jarvan still stays relevant, I want to say, strongest in the early game, but can still stay relatively relevant as we get later on into this game. Looking at how the scaling matches up now, who are you favoring once that we get into those mid-game fights, 2 items or so?
I think Spectre has completely won draft here just because without one of their team, like someone on their team getting incredibly fed, MG Elements lacks a lot of team fight damage. Because if you look at Spectre, they have 3 champions that can carry a team fight with Ashe, Akali, and Aatrox. Meanwhile, LeBlanc can pick off one person here or there. Aphelios is the only real person who can carry a team fight. So without a miracle or some major throws by Spectre, I don't really see how MG Element can win this after this draft.
Of course, we've got to keep our eyes on those players to watch, as you mentioned, out of blue. Venom for the side of MG Element, as well as learning for the side of Spectre. They've got some champions. They've got 3 very different champions, I want to say. You've got this tank up in the top lane. You've got Aphelios for out of blue, your hyper carry, whereas learning can one-shot everyone. Who is your one player to watch overall across this game in terms of who will either carry or lead the
I think it's going to be the bot lane of both bot lanes in general. I think, like I said earlier, just because how the comps are drafted, if the Spectre Gaming bot lane can effectively push their advantage and their early game priority that they should provide, and Jarvan plays around them accordingly, I think it's completely on them to do their job and punish MGE in a way that makes it so they can't actually scale to the point they want to get to.
Sure, and of course, as you may have noticed here with our new overlay, so to speak, just a little bit of an update there. We do have a sponsor here at the Black Twitch League. Speed Robo Games is giving us a sponsorship, at least helping us out just a little bit. So we want to thank them for their support of our community. There's going to be something more scripted to say in the future, but I don't know. We just added them onto the. We just got them as a sponsor today, so thank you to them for all their hard work. But before we head to break here, please don't run it. Who's winning game one?
I think it has to be Spectre after these drafts.
Spectre Gaming is the call, so we'll find out if Please Don't Run It can get their prediction wizard hat on and say, hey, I'm the prediction, got 100% win rate, or if they're going to look like a fool and make me feel a little bit better about myself about my non-perfect predictions. We're going to head to a quick break, and when we're back, we will have game one of MG Element versus Spectre on the right. And welcome back, everyone, onto the Rift with, oh my goodness, all these pings coming through. Game 1 of MG Element versus Spectre Gaming. RareAdam alongside PlsDont run it here, and oh my goodness, we're going to get a level 1.
Oh boy.
Oh my goodness.
Interesting.
They're
I'm hoping the team with the Jarvan doesn't elect for that because, so right away I'm seeing that Learning took bone plating, which I'm of the belief it's kind of a grief rune, just because it's only up for like, I think it's like every 30 seconds or something it's up.
Yes.
Meanwhile, if you have second wind,
It's always up.
it's always up. Like, you're always getting that healing whenever you take poke, because, like, especially in this matchup, a lot of the poke you're eating is just going to be auto harass. And LeBlanc doesn't have much AD, so if you have a D shield and a second wind, like, if you're getting hit with an auto, you're only taking like 10 damage after the healing comes through.
Yeah. Interesting option for Learning to take that bone plating. Of note here, a little bit of a late invade just to get a little bit of vision down onto SwagAsm there. They want to make sure that he is on the back foot, but you can see Red as well going to be able to drop down a ward. Rakan did not opt to take the Spell Thief, so will not get any gold for that. Red didn't have anyone close by, so it doesn't get gold for that either. It's just a bunch of wards being placed down, a very neutral early game as they will start on opposite sides of the map, both on their red buffs.
So interesting to see. They, I think they're aware that Jarvan had to start top here, and they have the vision by his Raptor Pit, and he doesn't have a sweeper, so I think he's going to struggle to get an early level 2 gank off and abuse his early game prowess. Yeah, he's looking to go for the Krugs and probably do a top to bot clear.
So full clear from SwagAsm will mean that won't have the sort of surprise mid lane level 2 gank. Great ward from King Annihilator to sort of force that out as Learning takes the Electrocute proc. But as you said, the shove for level 2 going to come through from the side of Spectre Gaming, HyperF, and Red. They've got the Mantra Q, the Inner Flame from the Karma. You can just push so easily with that as Lake and Venom just doing top lane things, trading back and forth, but Venom not really liking how that trade turns out, ends up going below 50% HP.
Yeah, Aatrox is a very strong champion right now. I don't know why we don't see him played more in pro play. He's a complete menace, does a ton of damage, ton of healing, complete team fight monster, also very strong laning phase.
Speaking of top lane, though, Venom going to get ganked here. The flash is going to come out from both top laners. SwagAsm able to get the flag and drag. Will they have enough damage? No, they will not commit for the first blood under the tower. Both flashes from those top laners, but it's going to be a little bit more of an advantage for Lake, who will have the wave pushing in and will most likely force that teleport out from Venom. So good early gank.
It's a good read by here for MG. Oh, wait, red side's MG, right?
Blue
no, Spectre. The Spectre.
MG, yes.
Yeah, there's Spectre. Good read by Spectre here, having Jarvan go right to the enemy top side. I'm guessing the ward placed in the river caught Volibear rotating, and it enabled them to see that, so he's not going to end up getting completely annihilated early game in the jungle by that.
So vertical jungling will come through here. Jarvan going to be a little bit behind the curve because of that early gank, but level 4 now complete for Runner, who has the option to runner his way into one of these lanes at will. Of note, that might be the mid lane. Learning taken down to about 300 HP, but the Volibear will just trot their way through. This bot lane, though, now starting to turn around a little bit. The wave is starting to shove back into HyperF and Red, and looking at the mana pools here, HyperF having a little bit of trouble keeping up in the CS department and the poke department as well.
I'm not sure if he took Presence of Mind. I feel like that's a very good rune to take when you're a very mana-dependent champion who has consistent damage output. So, I can't tell if he took it. Next time they trade, I'll try to look. Or can I check his runes? No, I don't think I can.
You can see the runes. He did take Presence of Mind.
Oh, he did take Presence of Mind. Okay.
But it is maybe just not getting as much poke as they wanted, as actually Red going to be taking a lot of damage. Ignite coming down. This could be our first blood out of blue flashing forward, but Inferno and plus Ignite will not be able to clean that up. Annihilator now in a little bit of trouble, but SwagAsm goes a little bit too deep. The Ignite's ticking. One more tick, and that's going to be first blood picked up by King. Annihilator in the mid lane. Don't know what SwagAsm was doing there.
Yeah, that blue buff's incredibly important to Blanc too, because I mentioned earlier she has a lot of struggle when it comes to mana and shoving waves, and getting that 10% CDR and an infinite mana pool enables her to completely pressure this Akali and prevent her from getting any farm early.
Really interesting early game coming through as Learning not really ending up on the better end of this laning phase. We talked about how LeBlanc is a very volatile champion, but when you get LeBlanc fed, it's still a very strong champion, regardless of how lacking her champion may be once we get into the later stages.
Interesting to see here. There's no refill pot bought by Akali here, but she did get a regular potion, which definitely will help, but I feel like the refillable pot would have been a very big tool here to make sure that she can stay in lane for longer and get her much needed XP. Because Akali, more than other champions, is one of the most level dependent champions in the game, because I think until, like, I don't know at one point, but there's a large portion of the game where she can't cast back-to-back Qs until she hits a certain level. And
until level 5.
Yeah. As well as her R is her biggest power spike for most, like, out of any mid laner. I think Akali level 6 is one of the bigger spikes compared to level 5. Just because she's not a champion, really, until she hits it. But unfortunately for her wave is now shoved, and she is low with no pots against a very scary LeBlanc.
Yeah, really not able to survive that lane too well, as Venom going in for a little bit of a trade with Lake. But you can see this Aatrox, despite not picking up that kill early game, still has some pretty good control over this wave, up about 10 CS. Granted, the wave is pushing in, but Lake just making Venom's life really difficult on this top side of the map thus far. Been doing a really good job of just pressuring down and showing what this matchup is meant to be, but it's going to be a little bit of a skirmish around this dragon. It's a 4v3 in favor of MG Element. The flash going to be forced out from Swagasm, but Runner 90 going to come into that backline, find the stun and the kill. Second kill of the game picked up by MG Element. First one by the Volibear, and this should lead to a Hextech Dragon.
So, is it too late to change my prediction?
Yes, it is. Once you predict, it's over. But
yeah,
great early game coming through from MG Element. They've been able to sort of set the tempo of this game, and yes, despite the prediction, Swagasm just having a little bit more trouble than I think we were expecting.
Yeah, he didn't play around his what should have been a very winning dominant bot lane, and he ganked the LeBlanc, which I don't think you really should ever really do here, just because your Jarvan is LeBlanc. Like, I don't understand how you're ever gonna get her. But hey, teach their own.
A little bit of an interesting angle in that early game.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Very interesting.
Yeah, from Swagasm, but still going to be farming up for that level 6 mark. There's still a lot of League of Legends to be played, though, and 7.5 minutes in, it's only about a 1,200 gold lead in favor of MG Element. We talked about how the scaling for the side of Spectre Gaming is favored here. Does that still stand up in a relatively close game still, or is it really dependent on that early game in your opinion?
I think it's heavily put on to the Jarvan, the Aatrox now to make some big plays in team fights, because Akali's down 18 CS now. Bot lane is even, and they're gonna be less effective in team fights comparatively.
And of course, as we saw there briefly, Runner 90 tried to make something happen, got Ash Arrowed, ran away. So that's going to be the Enchanted Crystal Arrow down. But mid lane, Annihilator looking for the solo kill onto Learning. Perfect execution going to come through. Last tick of Ignite's not going to be enough, but the flash forward from Annihilator to clean that one up. Will be able to stay alive with under 50 HP. Swagasm is in the area, though. Has the Flag and Dragon to Cataclysm combo. Will not end up using it. So Annihilator able to pick up another solo kill for themselves in this mid lane. And it's starting to fall apart here just a little bit for Spectre Gaming. A little bit of fear in their eyes, I think.
Another thing, some interesting Ruin choices by Jarvan. He has Hex Flash on Jarvan.
Oh, as actually bot lane out of blue, gonna need the Stand United shield on top of using that Moonlight Vigil. So much damage coming out as Venom will be taking a pretty big CS loss for this one as well. Out of blue now forced to run away here, but Swagasm has moved their way down to this bottom side of the map. A good counterplay there from the side of Spectre Gaming to not only burn the Shen ultimate, but stall him out as well for the reset, as Lake able to shove in a wave and pick up their first tower play of the game as well.
Yeah, it seems that the Spectre Gaming bot lane has kind of realized the power they have now. But I was kind of wondering why Rakan didn't use anything there, because I feel like Rakan definitely could have made a play there.
Going into the backline, able to find a kill onto Red as late game carry, though, will get thrown into the Cataclysm. Hyper F, though, starting to dish out the damage. Venom, do they have enough tanky stats to be able to survive? The Bramble Vest will actually end up being the difference maker there, as Hyper F unable to find the kill under the tower, but the taunt flash coming forward. Hyper F taken down with the last tower shot. Now Swagasm under the tower. Venom gets a double kill. He had no business getting those 2 kills, but it ends up being 3 for 1 in favor of MG Element, and that prediction, yeah, not looking
Yeah,
so
it's
good
not,
anymore.
not looking too great. It seems like this is the best case scenario for MG Element here, and the worst, and a nightmare scenario for Spectre with how this early game has played out.
And Out of Blue now going to be on that top side of the map, but 1v1ing against Lake, I don't think that's the fight that you want, especially under this tower, but Lake will get rooted up. Great flash from Out of Blue is just a little bit too deep from Lake, and Spectre fallen by the wayside once again, this time in the 1v1. The Aatrox is supposed to win that 100% of the time, unless that happens.
Yeah, taking 3 turret shots is never the optimal play there, I think.
Oh, but now we're Red in a little bit of trouble, and no flash to get out of there. Dodges away from the chain, but the grand entrance from late game carry will be able to pick up or knock up Red there. Late game carry, though, taking a decent amount of damage. Enchanted Crystal Arrow will help with the splash damage. Annihilator should be able to distort over that wall, but it's a 1-for-1 on the bottom side of the map. Support for support.
Interesting to see here. Jarvan's going the Bruiser build, because recently there's been a build surfacing for him where he goes, it's the blue tank item, I'm not sure the name of it, into, I think, Thimble Winter and Frozen Heart, and it provides you a ton of ability to make sure AD carry is kind of locked up for a long period of time. You can stay on top of them. They're incredibly tanky.
There are a couple of different Jarvan builds. I mean, there's also your Turbo Chem tank and Dizonya's into Chains build, which was Malorang's build in LEC, you know, the ultimate bravery build, so to speak. But,
yeah.
Jarvan is one of those champions that you can basically build any item on them, and they'll be okay with it, to say the least. I mean, I think you know, the worst mythic you could buy on it is like Kraken Slayer, of course, but realistically, you know, there are options that you can still go. You can go Moonstone Jarvan, and it works if you take area as well. But bottom side here, Red are going to be getting run down by Runner 90. This Volibear is angry, has the Stormbringer if necessary. Swagasm doesn't want to commit to the play, though, as just buys a little bit of space for Out of Blue and late game carry to farm up just a little bit more, as the second dragon has spawned onto the map here. This should be a pretty important dragon to pick up here, because this will force Soul Point if you are MG Element very soon. And, you know, given what we expected out of this early game, we didn't expect this, at least out of this early game, but looks like Swagasm going to be looking for the steal, jumping into that backline. Cataclysm coming through. Out of Blue able to stay alive with a sliver of health, dodging away from the volley as well. Learning will be able to find the Aphelios, but it is the dragon picked up late game carry now under duress here. Learning able to find that last auto attack, but it's Hyper trying to deal as much damage with Learning as possible. Runner 90 able to just jump right on top of that Akali's head, as it is a 3-for-2 thus far. But under this tower, Venom looking for the 1v1 kill once again. Hyperaf, though, in a little bit of trouble. Runner 90 will take a big bite out of the Ash, and it's going to be 4-for-2 around the dragon fight in favor of MG Element.
So that was a very interesting contest. I don't think it worked out as poorly as it looks, because they did get a shutdown on the Aphelios there. But there was no teleport up for Aatrox there. He was half health. And they had Shen, which they should have known he had ult, since he hasn't used it since that bot lane play a fair bit ago. So it was interesting to see them contest. I understand Soul Point's a very scary thing to face, but I feel like throwing that was not the right play.
You know, potentially not the ideal situation, but
yeah,
we will have to keep our eye on how this the next couple of minutes go, because I think that's really the deciding factor. Plates are gone now. It's a 3,500 gold lead for MG Element, which, being 8 kills up and only having 3,500 gold, it could be a lot worse. Granted, it's 14 minutes. I think these next couple of minutes are really important for the side of Spectre Gaming, and at this point, who are you looking for Spectre to sort of step up and take the reins?
I think Akali had a very good team fight there, and I as much as I disagree with her item choice here, I still think a lot of the prowess on her of killing, potentially making a play off to kill the LeBlanc or killing the Aphelios is heavily put onto her. As well as the Aatrox. Aatrox just hit his Gore Drinker, which is a huge spike for him. He has a ton of power in team fights now. I think the only bigger spike he's going to hit is when he hits his Death Dance second item. But until that point, I think he's probably one of the stronger champions on the map right now. So I think one of those two is definitely have to step up.
We'll have to keep our eyes on who will sort of take that next step for the side of Spectre Gaming, if anyone, because in a lot of ways they're they are on a timer in a sense. You know, you've got
Mm-hmm.
Cloud Soul is sort of a godsend if you're the side of Spectre Gaming, because it's not the most impactful soul to pick up, but it's still rather
Yeah.
important, especially on a Rakan, especially on a Volibear, where they want to be able to run
Indeed.
fast into the
And
middle of the team.
how do you catch a LeBlanc when she has that additional movement speed on her R now?
Exactly, as well as just general movement speed around the map. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it's not the end of the world for the side of Spectre Gaming. This soul isn't going to be the reason why they win games. It's more of a reason that they lose less in that sense.
Correct. Yes.
But as it stands here, just sort of waiting for the next big play to happen. We've got a dragon spawning in 2 minutes. Rift Herald has been taken, or was taken a while ago. It's not on the map right now, interestingly enough. And there's nothing showing, but Annihilator actually going to hit with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow under the tower. This is a big pick if they're able to pick it up. Swagasm, though, tanking up the tower, learning, unable to find the right LeBlanc there. The Shen ultimate is key as well in keeping her alive. So they defend the shutdown, but it looked really close there for a second.
I think the error on that play was they didn't wait for Akali to get there, because if Akali's there to get her RE through and make sure the E is locked in on the LeBlanc, and if she dashes away, that she can still get onto her, I think that's a guaranteed kill there and a huge shutdown onto her. But unfortunately, they didn't wait long enough, and that play did not end up working out as they'd like it to. But they did blow the Shen ult, which does give them a window for the next minute and a half to look for another play onto somewhere else.
Yeah, and Lake now might be that window. Except on the enemy team, their Annihilator are just able to get the solo kill. It is going to be an objective bounty picked up by the side of Spectre Gaming, but I think Lake knew that they were overextended just a little bit when they see Runner 90 running from behind them. A little bit of a tough situation, but yeah, the Aatrox goes down once again as the gold lead actually has extended up to about 5,000. Mid lane, though, Learning going to get hit with the quickness plus the Grand Entrance out of blue. Do they have enough damage to be able to follow this up? They aren't able to find the snipe with the Calibrum there. That might have been the difference maker, but it's going to be Akali getting away with her life.
Very, another champion, LeBlanc and Akali, they're both incredibly hard to kill, just because, you know, Akali, I don't know what season she got reworked in, but even old Akali was also a nightmare to catch. But LeBlanc's probably like the OG, like 50 dash champion.
You know, you've got a lot of ways to get out of really sticky situations if you are those champions, and we saw it from Annihilator earlier, able to get away from the 4-man dive on the bottom side, and then we see Akali able to escape that as well. Another thing that King Annihilator can do is jump over that wall and do half of Lake's health bar, but it's actually going to be Runner 90 caught out a little bit here, unable to use that Stormbringer quite yet. Goes golden. They will be able to stay alive at the last second, but Learning has already taken down out of blue. Red, though, taking a bunch of damage. Annihilator is now dominating, able to take down that Jarvan, but Lake, look at the heals on this man. So much health coming through for Lake here. The Aatrox cannot be stopped. It's going to be a one fight for Spectre Gaming as finally they're able to find a fight that works for them on their terms. A 3-for-1 in their favor. Could be more if Lake's able to clean this one up, but Annihilator's got a lot of damage as well. It will be Dragon picked up at the very least here. Lake, though, might be in a little bit of trouble. Late game carry able to charm him up and pick up that kill for Annihilator, who is now 7-0-4. It was a very good fight from Spectre Gaming. They're able to pick up the extra kill as well as the Dragon. Of note, there's still an 1,000 gold shutdown available if they can kill King Annihilator, who has yet to die this game, 7-0-4.
So I think what I mentioned earlier regarding how they're going to be missing a lot of damage in team fights if Aphelios is not there or behind. I think we just saw that they insta blew up the Aphelios with Jarvan and I believe Akali. So I think if Spectre can look to do that on repeat in every fight, I think that's a great window for them to be able to win. But if MG Element can focus on making sure that they keep Aphelios alive and so they always have that consistent DPS in team fights, I think this game should be on lock for them, just because how strong their LeBlanc is, her ability to pretty much pick anyone on the enemy team and just say, you're dead.
At this point, the LeBlanc is so strong, you know, sitting at 2 items compared to literally everyone else in the game at 1 item, that she's just able to bully out whoever she wants. If she looks for a fight, she can, you know, pick off someone in the middle of a team fight at this point. And we mentioned that she's going to have trouble taking down some of these key members. She blew up Swagasm before Swagasm was really able to have too much of an impact in that fight. So
yeah,
when you put that under the lens, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this game goes, but out of blue, going to be forced to use that cleanse great enchanted crystal arrow, forces out the summoner from out of blue.
Yeah, but I think the enchanted crystal arrow will be up significantly sooner than cleanse, so I'm hoping that they can look for another pick there, hopefully get my prediction right so I can be 1-0. That'll be fantastic.
Yes. I mean, I think that for all of us casters who do this more regularly, we haven't had the luxury of being perfect since ever.
Yeah.
You know, at least for me, in terms of Yanni and I are bats, I'm pretty sure I'm like 2 and 3 on those, and I got the first one wrong. So, no, can't have that as a you know, as a stopgap for myself. But in a lot of ways, you know, first time casting, you're able to make predictions, and you can say, you know what,
yeah,
I'm perfect. And then you get the first one wrong, and you're like, okay, never mind. And then, but if you get the first one right, then you're like, okay, second game, I'm still perfect, and you can keep going like that. It's the joys of being a newer caster.
Yeah.
For us old folk who know we don't get that luxury anymore. It feels bad, man.
Yeah. Very fortunately for Spectre, Akali's managed to stay roughly even in XP. For a long time, they were both at 13 together. I think he's still down a little XP to LeBlanc, but is still within a level, which is very important because level 16 for Akali is very strong. And the sooner, I think it's probably much stronger than LeBlanc level 16, who's kind of like, obviously with items she'll deal more damage, but I think when it comes to her power level relevant to the rest of the champions in the game is only going to get weaker and weaker at this point.
And I think a lot of the power from Spectre is going to be through those level 16 marks, not only on learning, but on Lake, on Hyper F as well, just being able to, you know, initiate a fight with your enchanted crystal arrow and sort of use that as your trigger is a really good way to start the fight. But Lake still down a level onto Venom here. Shocking, all things considered. It is a Shen who normally leaves that lane and is around a lot of members compared to Aatrox who doesn't do that.
Yeah, I think was the double or triple kill that the Shen ended up getting down bot lane.
Yeah.
That was a heavy contributor to that. But for the most part, the solo lanes are sticking in there regarding XP. The bot lanes, the ADC's down a level, which I don't think the ADC levels matter too much. I think it's more about the golden items they have. You can look at Aphelios has 2 items and Ashe is just on some small components for a second item, so that's definitely something to look at.
And Out of Blue has had a very strong performance on the Aphelios thus far. Nothing too crazy, but it's been enough for their team to sort of take this lead. And as it stands right now, it's still that 4,000 gold lead that they've had for the last 8 minutes or so. It's stayed relatively consistent. So maybe this is Spectre Gaming able to get back into the mix of things. This isn't something that is surprising from Spectre Gaming, though. They are known for coming back in the second half of games and really shocking a lot of their opponents. So we'll have to see if they can play that out in full. But for the time being, just waiting on the next dragon fight starting in 30 seconds. And everything should be up for this. We're expecting a really big fight, yes. Oh my goodness. Late game carry, though, going to start the fight off. Actually will get the Shen ultimate. Red almost removed from play, but a great taunt flash there from Venom will be able to clean up Red at the end of it. Lake has already used that World Ender, so no ultimate available for the Aatrox either. I have to feel that this is the Dragon Soul Point picked up for MG Element. They're able to find a pick onto the support, and that just happens to be enough. Learning, though, might be in a little bit of trouble. Annihilator able to land the chains there. Ignite is ticking down. Learning may be able to get out of there. Will not use that second half of the perfect execution. It's going to be bot lane tower traded for this mid lane tower, but it's going to be soul point secured for the side of MG Element as they extend their gold lead up just a little bit more.
I thought that the commitment there from MG Element was a bit much, trying to kill just the Karma there, because they blew Shen ult, they blew Rakan ult, and I thought if Spectre just backed off, accepted that they lost their support, and like regrouped to have a coordinated engage onto the Aphelios, they definitely still could have turned that fight around. But it seems like they were a little too eager to get into that fight, and they ended up blowing more than they should have, and they weren't able to contest accordingly because of it.
I think a lot of that is also just based on Lake's ultimate not being super impactful either. It was used very early on into the fight and got nothing from it.
Correct, yeah. I think if they held that on, looked for a Jarvan flash engage onto Aphelios, but Aphelios does have flash and cleanse both up, so it's kind of hard to go on to him. I think they need to look to next time before Soul, like roughly 2 minutes before Soul, look to throw the Ash Ult at him and blow his cleanse, maybe blow his flash, so that he doesn't have it up for the next fight would be very important for them.
But as once again, we're still in this holding pattern in terms of the gold gap, right? Still 4,000 gold. There's soul point available now, or there's soul available for MG Element as their own soul point. We're sort of just the plane circling around, waiting to land. Nothing has really happened that is major. The last fight, all of these ultimates used for a Karma. That's all that was gotten at the end of the day. You know, you've burned the Shen flash. If you're Spectre Gaming here, I feel like you've got to try and find some sort of play onto the Shen who doesn't have a flash now, or find a play onto someone. King Annihilator, though, he'll just go over the wall and chunk you out for half if you let him.
Yeah, I feel like the Shen is a lot stronger than the Aatrox at this point, just because, like, actually no, the Death Dance is completed now at this point. It wasn't earlier, but I feel like that's definitely a huge spike for Aatrox. He should be able to take over this matchup now and make Shen's life very rough to deal with. I'm interested to see if he goes a Black Cleaver or if he goes a Maul here at this point. The Maul would be very big for preventing the one-shot from LeBlanc. But I wonder if Death Dance is enough to already do that. Seems like they were very keen on trading objectives here, back and forth. But the thing with this is Akali's...
Goodness!
Wow.
Yeah, Annihilator's going to do that to your Karma if you let them. Lake now in trouble. He pops the World Ender, going to get out of there. Turret is turned off by Runner 90. So they're able to complete that dive, and while Akali was bot lane there, learning, able to pick up the Tier 1. Tier 2 on the top side picked up another kill onto Red here, and this Karma pick has just been picked off a couple too many times here.
Yeah.
Goodness, Swagasm is dead.
Wow.
Ignite?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my goodness, King Annihilator able to find another kill for themselves on to Swagasm, and that's the trigger for Bear. That's 2 members down, the jungler not available. Learning is going to be looking over this pit. King Annihilator might need to make some plays happen. Learning, only the one who can kind of stop this from going down. Out of blue, though, is sort of sequestered off from everyone else. We'll see what the play is. Lake looking over. Does not look like there's going to be too much of a contest. That was an awful smite coming through, though. 5 HP as we saw.
Yeah, I saw the 5 HP
Yeah,
there.
now Lake trying to deal some damage to King Annihilator, who is able to get over the wall. Runner 90, though, trying to run down these 2 members. Hyper F taking a bunch of damage. Moonlight Fiddle not going to land onto anyone. Lake unable to stop the Shen ultimate from coming down either. Hyper F, though, in a world of hurt. Late game carry going to get that knockup with the Grand Entrance, and Hyper F will be taken down by Venom. Next target on the block is Learning here. King Annihilator doesn't have a whole lot of health, but has enough confidence to be able to pick that one up. They picked up another kill as well onto Lake, and MG Element, they turn what looked to just be a kill onto the Karma into 4 more kills for themselves, a Baron, Tier 2 turret, and now they're up 8,000 gold and looking to potentially
take the game here. Yeah, there's no wave clear on the comp of Spectre here, so this is going to be should be the end of the game. They have the Volibear ulti up again, so they could turn off both those turrets, but it looks like they're just looking to reset and get their soul.
Yeah, and a really big gold swing there for themselves. They're able to get effectively 5,000 gold on this power play thus far. It's going to be a lot of gold for Annihilator to be resetting on. I believe they just picked up their Zonya's Hourglass for themselves. Actually still sitting on 1,500 gold. You know, Aphelios now able to pick up a completed 3rd item if they so desire. The Shen should be able to pick up that the Titanic Hydra soon as well. So big power play. They'll be able to secure their soul, and they're looking for more. Jumping over the wall. Red gonna get charmed up. Runner 90 able to get on the board as well. Knock up onto Hyper F, and they're gonna be taken down as well. 2 quick kills, and they say soul be damned. We might just be looking to end the game. Learning still only level 15 here. Trying to run away from the Volibear, but the wave getting pushed in through mid lane. This could be the game. Runner 90 goes golden. Oh my goodness, Annihilator dealing all of the damage necessary. Able to pick up their 12th kill of the game. Learning, though, trying to make a miraculous play happen. Has the perfect execution, gets taunted up, goes golden. Second miss Moonlight Vigil of the fight there, as this should be the game. Lake, unless they're able to make some massive heroic plays, does not look to be so. All of the minions emoting as well for the ace. That will be game 1 going over to MG Element in 29 minutes and 45 seconds here. Not before they get... Oh, Red stayed alive, he did it!
Ah, only the 6 deaths. Not tied for most on the team then. What a crazy game from King Annihilator. He took that initial first blood onto the Jarvan and completely took it and ran and ended up carrying the game off of it. Incredible play by him.
Yeah, really well played overall from King Annihilator. I mean, 13-0-7, you can't get much better than that. But of note, we do have to say a sad farewell to the perfect record of
Uh,
your predictions.
was it ever perfect? I never got one right, though.
I mean, it was perfectly imperfect before with absolutely no predictions. So unfortunately, things must come to an end. But yeah, MG Element really looked to be getting back up on their feet with that performance. Looked more like the team that we were expecting to come in last week, and looked like the #1 team once again.
Yeah, they played very well. They played through their win con. Their bot lane outperformed what they probably should have done in lane there and had a great performance. I think across the board, everyone did their role perfectly.
And of course, we'll have to see if that performance can translate into a game 2 for MG Element to pick up a quick 2-0, or if Spectre Gaming are going to be able to go back to the drawing board and sort some of the kinks in their game plan out a little bit. We're going to take a short break here, but when we're back, we will have game 2 on the Rift for you, or at least for draft right after this. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Black Twitch League.